presentation. Good morning, colleagues. Please take a seat so that we can start this session. My name is Anna Olsson-Wrang. I am the ambassador and permanent representative of Sweden to the OSCE, and I have the honor of moderating today's session, which will focus on the topic of tolerance and non-discrimination, including equal opportunities for women and men, preventing and combating violence against women and girls, and the implementation of the OSCE Action Plan for the Promotion of Gender Equality. OSCE participating states have committed to ensure the protection of the girls of women and recognize gender equality as a fundamental aspect of a just and democratic society based on the rule of law. In 2025, as we commemorate 30 years of the Beijing Platform for Action and 25 years of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda, it is essential to reflect not only on the progress made, but also on the mounting challenges to gender equality across our region. While advancements have been achieved, particularly in participating states that have shown long-term commitment and allocated resources to gender equality, these gains are increasingly fragile. Gender-based violence continues to rise, also in political and public life, with women politicians, human rights defenders, journalists, and activists facing targeted threats and attacks. And across the OSCE, growing opposition to gender equality is reversing gains and fueling resistance to existing commitments. This session provides a space to explore persistent and emerging threats to gender equality and how societies can respond to uphold the rights of women and girls. It will examine why laws and policies addressing violence against women often fall short in practice, and how democratic institutions and civil society can better support survivors and drive meaningful change. Participants may share good practices for improving the representation of diverse women in public life and identifying gaps in current approaches. I will now move on to present the distinguished speakers sitting at the head table with me. And they will deliver the introductory remarks of this session. And first, we will listen to Ms. Sara Sofia Sirén, who is the Special Representative of the OSCE Chairperson in Office on Gender, and also a member of Finnish Parliament. She, on Parliament, she's a third-term member dedicated to advancing equality and sustainable development. And Ms. Sirén currently chairs the Employment and Equality Committee, in addition to her other parliamentary work. She is also a member of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. And Ms. Sirén has played a pivotal role in promoting gender equality and human rights through her leadership in various positions of trust, including her tenure as President of the National Council of Women in Finland. And in recent years, she has also served, for example, as a member of the Advisory Board for International Human Rights and as chair of the jury for the International Gender Equality Prize. With a robust academic foundation, Ms. Sirén holds a Master of Economic Sciences in Economics and Business Administration, specializing in international business, and a Master of Arts in Futures Studies. Her work reflects a strong dedication to building a more equitable society. Ms. Sirén, please, it is a pleasure to give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Dear participants, thank you for inviting me to speak at this very important and timely event. This year, as I'm sure this room very well knows, we mark both the 25th anniversary of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda, as well as the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action. 30 years ago, the Beijing Declaration represented the most progressive blueprint for advancing women's rights. It has not lost any of its relevance today. Quite the opposite. Despite the significant progress achieved globally regarding women's health, economic empowerment, and political participation and representation, there is still a long way to go to achieve real equality. And unfortunately, the task is not getting any easier. There are also several OSCE commitments on advancing gender equality, among them the 2004 OSCE Action Plan for the Promotion of Gender Equality. However, the elements of the OSCE normative framework are out of date. For example, the 2004 Action Plan has not been updated since, and the Women, Peace and Security Agenda has not featured significantly in Ministerial Council decisions since 2018. The global backlash against women's rights and gender equality is particularly concerning and threatens to undermine further progress. We need to step up our efforts and reinforce our determination to women's and girls' empowerment and full participation in all sectors of life. We must do better in respecting and implementing the commitments. Awareness raising on the benefits of gender equality for the whole society, including boys and men, is the way forward. We must keep reminding people that gender equality is a human right, but it is also a development accelerator, and it is a peace enabler. Equality is directly linked to security and development overall. Advancing gender equality boosts economic growth, improves health and education, reduces poverty, fosters social justice, and enhances peace and stability, ultimately benefiting everyone, the whole society. It is a sad reality that violence against women and girls is so common in almost every society. We have heard this during the CIO conference on gender equality, which took place in Vienna in early May, which I'm sure some of you also attended. The conference highlighted the reasons why violence against women and girls is still widespread in the OSCE region. These include the lack of implementation of laws and policies, lack of training of law enforcement and the judiciary, lack of trust in the institutions, and therefore underreporting of cases, and of course, lack of support. Especially legal and psychological support for survivors is essential. Some of the recommendations that were made during the CIO conference on gender equality include ensuring effective legal aid for victims, need to change attitudes and social norms, improving evidence gathering, and strengthening the legal framework, but also, and yet again, implementation. Another point that was raised during the conference is online hate speech and technology-facilitated gender-based violence and harassment, which widely violates women's rights and reduces women's political participation. I am quite sure that most female politicians are aware of this phenomena. They must be tackled with targeted actions at several fronts: technology design, policies, and legislation. It is equally important to address gender stereotypes and negative social norms as root causes of gender inequality. The OSCE has vast experience in the prevention of gender-based violence. It is important to highlight the important work that the OSCE field presences do in the area of addressing gender-based violence, working together with their host countries and civil societies. Here as well, the cooperation is key. The work of the OSCE representative of freedom of the media on promoting the safety of female journalists online is another excellent example in this regard. And of course, here in Warsaw, it is self-evident to point out the great work by ODIHR, for example, by issuing guidance and tools for governmental agencies, parliaments, and civil society, can use to combat gender-based violence in various contexts, including places of deprivation of liberty and in politics. Preventing and eliminating technology-facilitated gender-based violence remains a priority for Finland, and we have raised this topic to several international agendas. Building on its expertise and networks, the OSCE is well placed to increase its work in the prevention of technology-facilitated gender-based violence. The role of technology companies in the prevention and management of online harassment and violence must also be considered. It is crucial to combat exposure to harmful sexist digital content, including the objectification of girls and women. Development of legislation concerning the accountability of online platforms to remove illegal content would be an important step, such as the EU has proposed. We also need more research and facts on effective measures and best practices to combat gender stereotypes online. Ladies and gentlemen, as the special representative of the chairperson in office on gender, I have been in a privileged position to see how the OSCE, its field operations and institutions, and the participating states, together with civil society, are working to make societies safer for women and girls. Recently, I visited Ukraine and Moldova. In both countries, I met with civil society organizations, especially women-led organizations, and learned about their valuable work to prevent gender-based violence and enhance gender equality. In Ukraine, I discussed with people and organizations working to help survivors of conflict-related sexual violence in the context of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. It is essential that we fight impunity for such horrible crimes that perpetrators are being held to account. Women in Ukraine have been at the forefront of promoting gender equality and women's rights, working to prevent gender-based violence and address structural inequalities. For over 3.5 years now, the women and girls of Ukraine have been facing the devastating consequences of Russia's war of aggression. The immense suffering and devastation caused by the war is unspeakable. Despite the horrible realities of war, Ukrainian women continue to demonstrate extraordinary courage, resilience, and determination to support their communities during these challenging times. In this session, we will explore threats to gender equality and women's rights. I hope that we will also hear of good practice and innovative ideas on how to uphold our shared commitments and how to realize a safe and secure OSCE region for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Irene, for your valuable insights and also for sharing some impressions from your recent travels and work as a special representative and for bringing that to us here. I will now pass the floor to our next introductory speaker, who is Ms. Dubranka Simonovic, President of the association Parity Now. Ms. Simonovic, a Croatian jurist, human rights expert, and activist, holds a PhD in family law from the University of Zagreb. From 2015 to 2021, she served as the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, initiating the Femicide Watch and the EDVAV platform. She was a long-time member and chair of the UN CEDAW committee and co-chaired the Council of Europe committee that drafted the Istanbul Convention. As a diplomat, she represented Croatia at the UN and OSCE in Vienna. Currently, she leads Parity Now for Gender Equality, a Croatian NGO promoting inclusion of parity as a legal norm in the Croatian constitution and other laws. Please, Ms. Simonovic, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends, it is a great pleasure for me to be here today as President of Parity Now for Gender Equality. This is full title. Non-governmental organization just established in Croatia to promote parity or equal and inclusive representation of women and men in politics and decision-making processes, both as a legal principle and normative standards for achieving substantive gender equality. Through my past experiences that were mentioned, as Croatian diplomat and independent expert on human rights of women, one fact became clear. The presence or absence of women in decision-making spaces determines how societies function, whose voices are heard, and whose rights are protected. Then we need to look at parity as a kind of new norm, why it matters. Almost 50 years after adoption of the UN CEDAW Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and 30 years after the Beijing Platform for Action that we already mentioned, we have a comprehensive international framework for achieving gender equality. Article 2 of CEDAW Convention obliges 189 states parties to embed the principle of equality between women and men in their national constitutions or other laws, and to take all appropriate measures needed to realize this principle. The Beijing Platform for Action reaffirmed this commitment and obligation. But this goal of achieving what we are now calling substantive gender equality is a golden standard, and this is requiring not only law, but it is requiring gender equality in everyday life. Yet progress remains slow. Despite this strong framework, we are still very far from achieving gender equality in reality in politics. Globally, women hold only about 27% of seats in national parliaments. We need to find a way how to move from commitments to implementation. And the key question is why we are not progressing faster. What is blocking this progress? And why we are witnessing backlash against women's rights and girls in many parts of the world, what was mentioned by a moderator of this panel. A critical reason, in my view, lies in lack of implementation, the failure to fully integrate international norms, especially on gender equality, into national constitutions, institutions, and political systems. Those persistent implementation gaps between commitments and actions, between international norms and national realities on equal rights of women and men, we need to address with legally binding norms that are pushing us in the right direction. And this is why we should use now the CEDAW Committee's General Recommendation number 40 on inclusive and equal participation of women and men in decision-making, or parity. This General Recommendation was adopted by CEDAW Committee this year, and it is very important that it was adopted by consensus. In CEDAW committee, there are 23 experts from different parts of the world, representing different legal systems, representing different countries with different ideas about gender equality. But this general recommendation was adopted by consensus, and it is now an authoritative interpretation of obligations that we already have in CEDAW Convention. So based on this general recommendation, in Croatia, I was encouraged to establish new non-governmental organization with title Parity Now for Gender Equality, because it is very important to connect those two ideas. In CEDAW Convention, principle of gender equality or equal rights between women and men is contained in Article 2. In CEDAW Convention, there are temporary special measures and non-discriminatory measures that should be applied until we reach gender equality. But now, for the first time, we have general recommendation number 40 that is saying that parity is required. What is 50-50? This general recommendation clearly states that quota of 30%, contrary to the purpose and ideas of the whole convention. So it should be quotas of 50% or higher, or the rule should be 50-50, because I think that we all know that women are half of humanity, and we all have those beautiful agendas, but we do not have translated those agendas at reality. So now this association in Croatia, we have just started the process, and we have assessed what we already have. In Croatia, we do have in Croatian Constitution Article 3 that is stating that gender equality is the highest constitutional value. But nevertheless, in reality, we do have around 30% of women in the parliament. There is no 50-50 rule. So we are now trying to advocate that parity norm should be included in the constitution and in law on gender equality that is now under revision, and other electoral laws, because laws that are governing elections, laws that are stating either quotas or zipper list or parity principle are extremely important for elections at all levels. So we would like, as a new NGO, to spread those ideas that are based on already accepted international framework here, and then to monitor implementation and to encourage all those to accept this as a kind of a tool that will accelerate the whole process. And today I would like to encourage all participating states, all those present here, to use this general recommendation, and also OSCE Gender Parity Roadmap that was also produced by ODIHR, to use those instruments as practical tools for developing impact-oriented national action plans and initiatives. So we need to recognize parity as a missing link, something that was not so clearly expressed until now. It is implicitly in the CEDAW Convention, but now it is very explicitly expressed by the CEDAW Committee, and now also supported by a regional OSCE roadmap. We must use those concepts in achieving substantive gender equality in decision-making processes, but also in all areas of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Simonovic, for your important remarks on why we are going backwards and what needs to be improved also in terms of implementation. I think those are very important messages. Let me now turn to our third and final introductory speaker, who's sitting to my left, Dr. Dag Schulpe, Executive Director of the Federal Forum Men, Bundesforum Männer. Dr. Schulpe holds the position of Managing Director of the Bundesforum Männer, Interest Association for Boys, Men and Fathers, a non-governmental and national umbrella organization for German organizations working with boys, men and fathers. He holds a doctorate in political science from Freie Universität Berlin, where his dissertation examined the disciplining of gender in the name of the child's welfare, with a focus on the history of young welfare provisions of so-called illegitimate children. Since 2013, Dr. Schölper has led the Bundesforum Männer and currently directs the project on promoting sustainable masculinities, overcoming toxic masculinities. His professional expertise lies in the development of equality-oriented men's policies, the advancement of gender-reflective counseling practices, and democracy promotion. In addition, he contributes to several advisory bodies, including the Committee on Participation, Gender Democracy, and Anti-Discrimination of the Heinrich Böll Foundation. With that, Dr. Schölper, please, the floor is all yours.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the invitation to speak in this important session today. It's really an honor for me from a civil society perspective, and I'm speaking somewhat from a bottom-up perspective now. My topic is care. Care for children and care for dependent relatives as one of the main challenges of our societies. We often describe care as a women's issue, and it's true. Women still carry the largest share of unpaid care work. But if we look ahead, it becomes clear the role of man in care must change. Not out of blame, but out of necessity. Without a new balance, both our economies and our families will struggle. At present, most men remain anchored in full-time employment when they become fathers or when relatives need care. They rarely reduce their professional careers to take on unpaid care responsibilities. This is not simply a matter of individual's choice. It reflects structural and cultural barriers. Workplaces that expect men to be always available, social norms that define men still as breadwinners and not as caregivers, policy frameworks that do not create real incentives for men to take leave or to reduce hours. The result is well known. Women bear the heavier burden of unpaid care. Men continue in full-time jobs and inequalities persist. But there's more. Since single-earner family incomes are no longer sufficient in most OECD countries, unequal care distribution creates not only gender gaps, but also social fractures. Families come under pressure, solidarities weaken, and divides in society deepen. So, this is not only about equality or justice, it's also about demographic necessities. Europe's population is aging. In 2021, 20.8% of the EU citizens were 65 or older. By 2050, this will rise to almost 30%. The old age dependency ratio will nearly double from a third today to almost 57% by 2050. At the same time, the share of young people is shrinking. That means fewer workers facing more people in need of care. If men's role in care does not change, societies will face an impossible equation: rising demand for unpaid care, shrinking labor supply, and growing gender inequality. And we all know it's also a question of prevention of violence in partnership and against children. So the real question is, how can we make structurally enabled to reduce paid work in order to take their share of unpaid care, while we also manage the shrinking labor force? I see 5 necessary directions. First, in question of policy frameworks, parental leave, flexible work models, and pension rules must allow men to step into care without penalty. Second, and this is a question of workplace structures, companies must adapt to see caregiving as part of a normal life course for men as well as women. And in question of societal expectations, the breadwinner model is no longer sustainable. Care must be seen as part of man's role, not as an exception. Fourth, on a personal level, men must also recognize the value of care for themselves Caring for children, for aging relatives, and also practicing self-care strengthens relationships, improves well-being, and creates meaning. It benefits families and societies, but it also benefits men directly. Caring is not only giving, it is gaining. Fifth, support and counseling. Men need guidance in these new roles, as fathers, as carers for relatives, or as volunteers. Such counseling should be available locally in municipalities, in companies, and online. This is essential to make care a real and supported option for men, and not just a theoretical demand. An equality-oriented perspective means securing women's equal access to the labor market and securing men's equal access to care. Only if both sides move can we create sustainable balance for families, for societies, and for economies facing the demographic change. So the role of men in care must change. Fathers must have the chance to share care for their children. Sons must have the chance to share responsibility for aging parents. This is not about blaming individuals. It's about adapting roles and structures to demographic reality. Care is not only a question of equality, it's a question of necessity. If men are supported to take on care, everyone benefits. Women, men, children, and the elderly. And our societies gain the balances they urgently need. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schulper, for sharing your valuable insights on men's role in care, the care gap, the workforce gap, the need for an equality-oriented perspective, and also the demographic realities that societies face. So with that, I think we have listened to three excellent introductory remarks, and it is time for me to open the floor for discussion. And before I do so, I would like to kindly remind all participants of the following rules of the meeting. When given the floor, please introduce yourself, give your name, and the organization you represent. You may only take the floor on behalf of the organization under which you have registered to attend this conference. And please note that the speaking time is 3 minutes. Please keep your contribution brief and on topic. To facilitate the work of interpreters, speak clearly and slowly. The proceedings should be held in a respectful manner and in line with the code of conduct of this conference. All conference participants may submit written documents online via the conference platform, where they will be made available to all registered participants. Delegations of OSCE participating states may exercise their right of reply regarding any statement made by another participant in line with the meeting rules. Rights of reply must be announced at the head table during the session and then submitted in writing online to the conference platform. Any registered participant wishing to raise a procedural issue will be able to do so directly with the representatives of the chairperson in office at the head of table and not from the floor. All meeting rules and the code of conduct are published at the event website and applied to all events held at the conference, including the plenary sessions, side events, and other areas of the event venue. And before I open the floor, I'd also like to draw everyone's attention that the speakers list for this session is available for consultation in the plenary room and on the conference platform. We have a main speakers list and a reserve list. And the first speaker on my list is Kazakhstan Feminist Initiative Feminita, who I will now give the floor to, followed by Human Rights Union of Nagorno-Karabakh Refugees. Please, Kazakhstan Feminist Initiative Feminita, you have the floor.
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Janar Sikirbaeva, and this statement is made on behalf of Kazakhstan Feminist Initiative Feminita, which focuses on discrimination, advocacy, and hate crimes based on sexual orientation and gender identity. There are two cases I will mention. Myself and my colleague Aktorun Akinji Balase were detained for 10 days for organizing 8th of March peaceful meeting, International Women's Day in Almaty this year. One of the members of National Committee assured me that next time I would be punished on the basis of criminal code, but I will never stop. I am open and bold lesbian, was running for local council elections, Maslihat in 2023 in Almaty. I was number 3 and it was great success. But videos of an election campaign were used against me at court in 2025. After 2 years, I was fined for leading non-registered organization. Can women be in politics? Why we are persecuted for that? Kazakhstan supported 9 recommendations on taking effective measures and continuing to increase the participation of women in political and public life in the previous cycle of UPR. The official stats show that the gender inequality trend is overall negative. However, it skis near to zero. Having highly qualified male specialists alone with a drastically low trend of decreasing inequality shows that measures on combating gender inequality is neither sufficient nor effective. Strategy for gender equality for 10 years starting from 2006 has ended in 2016. Unfortunately, there has been no effective national plan. Despite a variety of female movements, such as feminist movement, mothers movement, in all cities of Kazakhstan, there was no explicit plan efforts made by state to increase women participation. Doors of political parties are shut for women. Absence of national action plan measures to combat gender inequality ended with a record drop to 19.4% on representation of women in parliament in 2023. Kazakhstan has fallen back to gender equality level of 15 years ago. Recommendations. Introduce comprehensive laws and policies against hate crimes, violence and discrimination, which would include LGBTQI people, because simply women are there. Stop petitions or researches made by Gonga, like National Fund for Endowment and Prosperity, that would harm LGBT people in Kazakhstan, because simply women are there. Stop pressure and attempts of extradition of Dina Tansari and free political activist Aygerim Tliuzhan. Adopt gender equality strategy with a temporarily special measure of 50% for female candidates in elections or appointments made by President for mayors and ministers until 2030. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on my list is Human Rights Union of Nagorno-Karabakh Refugees, followed by NGO Central Asian Progress and Integration Forum. Please, Human Rights Union of Nagorno-Karabakh Refugees, the floor is yours.
Honorable participants, it's my honor to greet you all at this conference. I'm Armine Tigranyan, representing the Human Rights Union of Nagorno-Karabakh Refugees. In the 21st century, at a time where the advanced world promotes tolerance and respect for human rights, the people of Nagorno-Karabakh nevertheless face forced displacement and the destruction of their identity due to intolerance and discrimination. They have endured war, blockade, and an ethnically motivated policy of Armenophobia that resulted in the forced displacement of 150,000 Armenians, including thousands of women and children from their historical homeland. These acts of injustice has disrupted fundamental human rights, including the right to culture, dismantled community life in blatant violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and UN covenants. As a result of the forced displacement, women have lost the right to visit the graves of their sons, husbands, fathers, and brothers. The historical cemeteries, along with their sacred kachkars, now under Azerbaijani control, are being desecrated and systematically destroyed, causing profound suffering to the mothers. This is especially alarming as Armenian cross-stone art, symbolism and craftsmanship of kachkars is recognized by UNESCO as part of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, and its destruction is an attack on universal values, striking at the very principles of cultural diversity, religious freedom, and tolerance. In their ancestral homeland, women preserved centuries-old Armenian traditions, including crafts, carpet weaving, pottery, culinary traditions, but today they are deprived of the right to participate in their community's culture practices, celebrations, and festivals. The Armenian population of Nagorno-Karabakh are deprived of the right to pray in their historic churches, to make pilgrimages. Nagorno-Karabakh is home to more than 5,000 Armenian monuments, undeniable testimony to its Armenian historical identity. Yet today, these churches, monasteries, villages are being systematically destroyed by Azerbaijan, violating the rights of generations to live in accordance with their identity. Moreover, the Armenian Christian historical landscape is being Islamized, and new mosques are being constructed on the very ruins of Armenian monuments. The medieval Armenian churches with hundreds of inscriptions, such as Dadivang, Gandzasar, Amaras, and Tsitsarnavang, are being falsified and wrongly declared as Albanian. This falsification of history, the deliberate annihilation of cultural identity, and the forced displacement are a continuation of war, a war against memory, against women, against truth and human dignity. Although these acts of racial discrimination have been acknowledged by the International Court of Justice, the European Parliament, the erasure of Armenian identity continues to this day, while the displaced Armenians remain deprived of the realization of their right to safe return. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on my list is NGO Central Asian Progress and Integration Forum, followed by National Human Rights Center of the Republic of Uzbekistan. The floor is yours, NGO Central Asian Progress and Integration Forum.
Госпожа модератор.
Madam Moderator, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, I am a member of the Central Asian Progress and Integration Forum. I would like to avail of this opportunity and to mention two cases. Those are false statements of some of the speakers who speak on behalf of the so-called opposition. Also, I would like to make a reference to the statement made by the SNOS from Tashkent. First and foremost, OSC platform is being used as an attempt to discredit Uzbekistan and Uzbeki reforms. For instance, a false statement was being disseminated that in Uzbekistan there is no trust to the electoral system, to the judiciary system, and to democracy in Uzbekistan. Dear participants, there is a logical question. Please tell me, is it possible to manage the point of view of 4,000 mass media outlets and of hundreds and hundreds of NGOs where 150,000 people work? Who has given them the right to spread disinformation? Who has given them the right to make offenses and to make attacks on the constitutional order of Uzbekistan using OSCE as their launching pad? They're using this platform to spread their false points of view, and they're misleading the international community. The SNOS group from Tashkent presented false information on the work being carried out in the city of Samarkand. This construction work is the reconstruction work of the mausoleum in Samarkand. Samarkand houses the great mausoleum of Amturadi. He is a very respected figure, and he is a founder of an Islamic school.
On the topic of the session, thank you.
Окей. Важно.
It is important to say that this work is not affecting the historic city of Samarkand. We are representatives of civil society. We represent the youth of Uzbekistan and Karabakh. We appeal to OSCE to stay politically vigilant and to be cautious of provocations. Do not allow for any statements that are falsified and that misleading international communities. Such statements should not take place at such international platforms as OSCE. Thank you.
Thank you. The next on my list is National Human Rights Center of the Republic of Uzbekistan, followed by Azerbaijani community in Poland.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to express my deep gratitude to the OSCE Chairperson in Office, the Finnish Chairpersonship, and ODHR for organizing this session. Gender equality is a strategic priority of Uzbekistan state policy, a cornerstone of our democratic development. Over the past 5 years, Uzbekistan has made remarkable progress in implementing all 12 critical areas of Beijing Platform for Action. According to the World Bank's Gender Equality Index, Uzbekistan ranks among the top 5 fastest-growing nations in the world and is listed among the 20 countries in the Open Gender Data Index. To strengthen this progress, Uzbekistan has adopted a robust legal and institutional framework. A national gender equality strategy for 2030 is being implemented across all sectors. Gender perspectives are being integrated into governance and budgeting, and from 2025, these processes have been digitally automated to ensure transparency and fairness. We are also investing in women's leadership. Women now hold 32% of seats in the legislative chamber, 28% in the Senate, 35% in public administration, and 37% in entrepreneurship. Special support is provided to women in rural areas, enabling employment and small businesses growth. Uzbekistan maintains a zero-tolerance policy toward all forms of violence. Since 2023, domestic violence have been criminalized. In 2025, the law of protecting children from all forms of violence entered in force. We are also addressing cyberbullying and digital harassment with the focus of prevention and safety. In 2026, Uzbekistan will launch the project combating domestic violence through justice measures implemented jointly with the UN Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights, UN Women, and the OSCE project coordinator in Uzbekistan. The VPS agenda remains a priority. Uzbekistan is finalizing the second National Action Plan on UN Security Council resolution and supports a regional plan for Central Asia. Through the Young Women for Peace initiative, we empower young women with leadership and mediation skills to engage in peace building and conflict prevention. Distinguished calls, challenges remains, changing social stereotypes, enhancing economic independence, and ensuring equal access to justice. Uzbekistan reaffirms its commitment to actively participate in the implementation of the OSCE Action Plan on Gender Equality. We warmly thank ODHR's gender section of OSCE Secretariat and the OSCE project coordinator in Uzbekistan for their partnership and support in advancing gender equality and women's leadership. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And I would like to recall that speakers should address the room from the proper desk and name sign. Next on my list is Azerbaijani community in Poland, followed by Ukraine. Azerbaijani community in Poland, you have the floor. Is there someone from the Azerbaijani community in Poland in the room? I don't see anyone, which means that the next speaker is Ukraine, followed by Sweden, and I see a microphone that is on that side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Moderator, distinguished delegates, the ongoing Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine remains a major challenge to the OSCE comprehensive concept of security, including its human dimension commitments on equality, tolerance, and protection from violence, particularly against women and girls. Amid the war, Ukraine, in cooperation with its partners, strives to ensure the protection of women's rights and to address gender-based violence. In 2022, Ukraine reaffirmed its commitment by ratifying the Istanbul Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women. Ukraine's parliament and government have adopted new laws and strategies to narrow the gender pay gap and ensure women's rights are upheld even under conditions of war. Russia's war of aggression has profoundly affected women and girls. Many have been displaced or separated from their families. Others volunteer, provide care, medical or humanitarian support. Ukrainian women serve bravely in the armed forces of Ukraine, defending their country and supporting its recovery. Yet they also face trauma, loss, and violence that no one should ever endure. Reports by the OSCE Moscow Mechanism and the United Nations document serious violations by the Russian Federation, including sexual violence and deportation of women and children. These are not isolated incidents, but part of Russia's deliberate policy of terror. Accountability for gender-based crimes must therefore remain at the heart of our collective response. If OSCE mechanisms reveal such crimes, we must ensure they do not vanish into silence. Ukraine remains committed to, but we cannot address these crimes alone. We call on participating states to strengthen accountability through sanctions, follow-up to Moscow Mechanism's findings, and sustained support to survivors, particularly in occupied and war-affected areas. Madam Moderator, just like Ukraine herself, a Ukrainian woman suffers, but she is not a victim. She fights back with courage, dignity, and resilience against an aggressor 10 times bigger than herself. And because she fights, Ukraine deserves not a pity, but justice and the unwavering support of all who believes in equality, dignity, and peace. I thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sweden, followed by Stitching Justice and Human Rights. Sweden, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make this statement on behalf of the EU. The following participating states have aligned themselves with the statement: Albania, Andorra, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Iceland, Liechtenstein, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Norway, Republic of Moldova, and Ukraine. Gender equality is a core value of the EU and cornerstone of the OSCE comprehensive approach to security. The EU recalls its commitment to support women's and youth's equal, full, effective, and meaningful participation in all their diversity in all spheres of public and political life. The EU continues to promote whole-of-society efforts to engage men and boys as allies and benefactors for gender equality. Violence against women and girls continues to be a serious obstacle to achieving equality. The EU reaffirms its positions of zero tolerance towards sexual and gender-based violence. Prevention, protection, and prosecution must be the driving forces of all our efforts in this regard. The EU accession to the Istanbul Convention shows its commitment to stepping up actions against gender-based violence and the support of its victims. The EU directive on combating violence against women and domestic violence constitutes another milestone criminalizing physical and psychological violence against women across the EU, both offline and online, as well as female genital mutilation and forced marriages. We strongly condemn all kinds of reprisals, violence, threats, and attacks, offline and online, including conflict-related sexual and gender-based violence against all women and girls, in particular the ultimate expression of gender-based violence, the killing of women and girls because of their gender. We furthermore condemn all threats and attacks targeting women human rights defenders, women journalists, women peace builders, women-led organizations, women activists, politicians, and trade unionists, which also constitutes a particular threat against democracy. The EU also strongly condemns the violence against women and girls in the context of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, including as a shameful tactic of war by Russian armed forces, substantiated in the reports of the International Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine, the UNSG Special Representative on Sexual Violence and Conflict, the Moscow Mechanism Expert Mission, and ODIHR. We reiterate our steadfast commitment to upholding international human rights law and IHL, and to ending impunity for international crimes. For the sake of equality, development, and peace, we stress the importance of the full implementation of all international obligations in this field, including the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 and subsequent resolutions on the VPS agenda, as well as of the OSCE Action Plan for the Promotion of Gender Equality and other OSCE commitments and recommendations. We thank civil society for its decisive work for gender equality, including its work on prevention and elimination of violence against women and girls. A safe and enabling environment for civil society must be ensured. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Stitching Justice and Human Rights, to be followed by Institute for Reporters' Freedoms and Safety. The floor now goes to Stitching Justice and Human Rights.
Distinguished Chair, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aziz Bayır. I speak on behalf of the Justice and Human Rights Foundation, an independent organization based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, with no links to any political group. Our foundation is guided by universal human rights, and we seek to give voice to all victims, regardless of background or belief. In recent years, hundreds of thousands of people in Turkey have been detained or persecuted under vague terrorism charges, often without fair legal procedures. Among them are thousands of women teachers, doctors, journalists, and the public servants targeted for their social roles and alleged ties. Many were the main caregivers of their families, and their imprisonment has left children without care or support. This crisis has created a silent generation of children growing up behind the bars or broken homes, crying deep social scars. Many of these women have been jailed for political reasons, not proven crimes, and the number of the affected families, women, and the children now reaches into the millions. As of September 2025, at least 822 children under 6 live in prison with their mothers, and 4,593 minors aged 12 to 18 remain detained. Children in these facilities are denied a normal childhood. They lack play, education, and the sense of safety every child deserves. Reports describe torture, denial of medical care, restraint during childbirth, and sexual assault, often without proper investigation and accountability. Women who speak about these abuses face retaliation and exclusion, which deepens their isolation. These practices violate Turkey's OSCE human dimension commitments and its duties under the ICCPR and the Convention on the Rights of the Child and the CEDAW Treaty. They show a serious protection gap, undermine both human dignity and regional stability. We urge the OSCE to use its mechanism to stop these violations, ensure accountability, and protect the rights of the women and children. We invite participants to find our further details and data in our brochures available at the stand in the corridor. As an independent civil society group, we aim to amplify the voice of those who cannot speak for themselves. Their stories remind us that human rights are not abstract principles, but real lives that demand action and empathy. Really, that demand action and empathy. I thank you.
Thank you. Next is Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety, followed by Union of Informed Citizens. Please, Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. It's difficult to me, as like head of the journalist defending organization, speak about equality in Azerbaijan, because it's not our main focus, but I would like to be quite direct. In Azerbaijan, unfortunately, we observe equality and opportunities for men and women only in the ruling family. When President Aliyev appointed his own wife, Mehriban Aliyeva, as like vice president. It's equality, yes. Like she's second person, powerful woman in Azerbaijan. Same as she, two of her daughters, Leyla and Arzu Aliyeva, they are also super powerful and super strong decision makers in the country. But what about others, women, like Aysel Umudova, Elnara Gasımova, Fatima Movlanlı, Nargiz Absalamova, Sevinç Vagif kızı, Ulviye Ali, Aytac Ahmadova, Khayala Ağayeva. And others. They are journalists who is exposed to grand corruptions of Aliyev family, and today they are jailed with completely ridiculous and fabricated, politically motivated charges. And I think it's good questions for all of us, how it's possible to speaking about equality in Azerbaijan. Of course, some of my colleagues from NGOs with a bit pro-governmental position able to say, for we have everything fine with women leadership in Azerbaijan, which is not true. They can give you some numbers, how many women represented in the parliament or in the local authorities, but these numbers is just numbers. They are not decision makers. I'm highlighted decision makers. It's only a woman representative from the ruling family. And on another side, we observe like 9 female brave journalists who is exposed to corruptions with involving of present family members. We try to using these opportunities to remind to all of OSCE like-minded states, use all possibilities for engagement with Azerbaijani government to advocate for release all of these brave women, and because we don't have any other tools, we again ask for help and support and solidarity with them. I thank you.
Thank you for your statement. Next is Union of Informed Citizens, followed by Turkey. Union of Informed Citizens, please, you have the floor. Is there anyone from Union of Informed Citizens in the room? I don't see anyone, so we will move on to Turkey. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ensuring equal opportunities for men and women is essential for building societies that are conducive to sustainable peace and security. In any society, violence against women and girls is a serious human rights violation and a grave concern, resulting in severe setbacks for the comprehensive security of all. As enshrined in the 1975 Helsinki Final Act and further elaborated in the subsequent OSCE documents, these two challenging phenomena are our shared duty and responsibility to ensure. OSCE's efforts to deepen its agenda on the empowerment of women and girls are remarkable. We note the positive developments regarding the implementation of 2004 Action Plan for the Promotion of Gender Equality under the guidance of Secretary General. Madam Chair, with these considerations in mind, let me briefly outline the steps taken by Turkish authorities with respect to the role of women and girls in shaping Turkey's past, present, and future. Our constitutional system, based on the equality of all individuals without discrimination, stipulates and promotes positive discrimination for underprivileged groups, including women and children. Let me recall that Turkish women acquired the right to vote and to be elected in 1934, over 90 years ago, which was before many other European countries. Women are very active in Turkish diplomacy as well. The number of female ambassadors and diplomats in the Turkish diplomatic service is among the highest at a global scale and continues to increase, making up nearly 40% of Turkish diplomats. The fourth National Action Plan to combat violence against women for the period 2021-2025 provides a comprehensive framework for strengthening prevention, protection, and support mechanisms at both national and local levels. In the same vein, preventing all forms of violence and abuse against children remains one of our key strategic objectives. The rights of the child are guaranteed under the Child Protection Law 2005. Our Child Rights Strategy Documents and Action Plan 2023-2028 aims to ensure a more inclusive society and strengthen protective and preventive services for children. Having been a co-sponsor to the UN resolution establishing October 11 as the International Day of the Girl Child, Turkey attributes particular importance to the protection of the rights of the girl child, with comprehensive measures to increase girls' education rates and to end early and forced marriages. Taking part in the Pathfinding 2.0 initiative launched by the UN Special Representative on Violence Against Children in 2025, Turkey assumes responsibility in developing effective and sustainable solutions to end all forms of violence against children. Hosting the UN Women Regional Office for Europe and Central Asia in Istanbul since 2014 and cooperated closely with UNICEF, we actively contribute to the international efforts in these areas. In concluding, Madam Chair, let me emphasize that Turkey is committed to sustain its efforts at both national and international levels to promote equal opportunities for women and men and to prevent and combat violence against women and girls. This is vital to ensure that everyone can enjoy these inherent rights and safety and dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Institute for Human Rights, followed by Baku Initiative Group. Institute for Human Rights, you have the
floor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to draw your attention to an alarming retaliation against female journalists in Azerbaijan, a striking example of how gender-based violence and discrimination continue to undermine the principles of equality between men and women. What we are witnessing is not merely an attack on press freedom, but a broader campaign to gender repression designed to silence women who dare to speak truth to power. Today, there are more 40 journalists remain behind bars in Azerbaijan. Among them are 9 courageous women targeted not only for their integrity and professionalism, but also because they are women who refuse to be intimidated. Aynur Ilgunesh of Maidan TV, along with her colleagues Hayala Agayeva, Aysel Umudova, Aytaç Taplik, faces fabricated charges of money laundering, accusations carrying up to 7 years in prison. From Abzaz Media, Elnara Gasimova, Nargis Absalamova, and Sevinç Vagivgezi have been prosecuted on similar grounds and transferred to a remote penal colony 250 kilometers from Baku without any notice to their families. Another case is of Ulviya Ali, an independent journalist arrested in May 2025. During detention, she was denied access to legal counsel, subjected to physical abuse, and threatened with sexual violence, a cruel manifestation of gender-based violence used as a weapon of intimidation. These women's only crime was their commitment to truth and justice. Their persecution exposes the intersection of political repression and gender discrimination. Female journalists in detention face gender-specific abuses, such as denial of hygiene products, essential medication, and medical care, violations that degrade their dignity and reinforce systematic inequality. This is not an isolated pattern, but a deliberate strategy to suppress women's voices, disempower them through fear, and send a chilling message to all women in public life. We must therefore affirm that gender-based violence in any form, whether physical, psychological, or institutional, is incompatible with the principle of equal rights for men and women. States have responsibility to protect women journalists and ensure that their pursuit of truth does not become a risk to one's life or integrity. Therefore, we call on Azerbaijan to immediately cease its persecution of female journalists, release all those arbitrarily detained, and ensure accountability for acts of violence and intimidation committed against them. We further urge OSCE participating states to closely monitor and respond to the deteriorating situation of women journalists in Azerbaijan in line with their commitments to gender equality and media freedom. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Baku Initiative Group, followed by Human Rights for Women Dealing with Violence. Baku Initiative Group, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Dear moderator, distinguished delegates, my name is Abbas Abbasov. I represent the Baku Initiative Group. Today, at this plenary session, we debate the global challenge of racism, xenophobia, and intolerance. It's important to emphasize that in certain territories, these violations of human rights are manifested through a single overarching system, colonialism and neocolonialism. Regrettably, even in the 21st century, both colonialism and institutionalized discrimination continue to persist. Some countries portray themselves as a global defender of human rights, but at the same time, they continue to implement colonial and neocolonial policies in its overseas territories. In this regard, the Kanak people remain second-class citizens in their own homeland, Kanaki, New Caledonia. In Guadeloupe, Martinique, Afro-Caribbean communities are excluded from decision-making and denied equal economic opportunities. In Mayotte, a mostly Muslim population is subjected to policies of deliberate marginalization. These are not isolated injustices, but components of a broader colonial program designed to raise local identities and enforce dependence on France. Unfortunately, the atrocities perpetrated by Belgium in Congo have still not been adequately acknowledged by the international community. France masks the system behind the rhetoric of universalism and Republican values. In reality, such concepts are used to delegitimize indigenous traditions, suppress local languages, and discredit religions that don't conform to metropolitan norms. Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and hostility toward African and indigenous spiritual traditions are not random or accidental phenomena. They are cultivated through colonial policies that divide, humiliate, and dominate populations. Racism in these territories is not an aberration. It's a very foundation of colonial governance and violation of fundamental human rights. To continue colonial domination is to perpetuate racial inequality. To deny self-determination is to institutionalize xenophobia. To maintain assimilationist policies is to commit cultural erasure.
Sir, if I can please ask you to stick to the topic of this session. Thank you. Thank you. Next on my list is Human Rights for Women Dealing with Violence, followed by Human Rights Center Glotion, sorry for my pronunciation. First, the floor goes to Human Rights for Women Dealing with Violence. Please.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, colleagues, and attendees. My name is Rachel Frizecki. I am from the USA, and my work is Human Rights for Women Dealing with Violence, independent research, advocacy, and consulting. Under the current White House administration, many women's rights and human rights have had support withdrawn. All across the globe, the effect has been felt. In the OSCE body, the reports of civil society unrest are often connected to a few large nations. That has now shifted. A time has arrived where assessment of and by all members of the OSCE is what will make the ongoing work valid and credible. There is less confront and more ease when looking past the issues arising across some OSCE regions currently. However, as has been seen in this body so many times, when the affairs that no one wants to address grow through receiving no attention, the forces that develop can become so powerful that they move the baseline of the international work of the human rights bodies, values, and laws now in place. Rather than look to nations with values unlike ours, it is time to hold those who once had leadership positions accountable. There was always an unspoken agreement in the background that should any member nation begin to falter, the collective would uphold them, so they did not. It is a daunting task, but it cannot be left undone. When in the history of Europe the days came for nations to assist one another in doing assessments of fitness and accountability across governments, the work was not done and the price is still being borne. Though it is uncomfortable, the work requires self and regional assessment by member states to support those who have upheld the same values to account. This is the only way that will confirm the credibility and trustworthiness of the work done here. The values and basic principles must be upheld across all countries by all members. This body must keep in mind it is critical to the work of upholding democracy on a global basis. I would like to add, from my own perspective, there needs to be accountability mechanisms within the OSCE structures so that when it is found that any group, initiative, or department is carrying out practices that are counter to the baseline values, there is a place to go even for the most vulnerable civil society members. The group that offers guidance to the ombudsman must itself have an ombudsman. The time has come where every voice must truly and in fact be included, not because it is an ideal, but because only in this way is there true democracy, accountability, and rule of law. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Human Rights Center Glotion, followed by Human Rights Consulting Group Public Foundation. Human Rights Center Glotion, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Please put your headsets. My speech will be in Russian. Добрый день.
Hello, I'm Rustam Jantasov. I represent the Glotion Human Rights Center and the Request LGBTQI initiative. Recently, Parliament members have been actively spreading homophobic statements. On July 30th, one of the MPs announced the development of a bill banning homosexual propaganda and proposed introducing criminal liability. This bill is planned to be submitted to Parliament this fall. The rhetoric is already having direct consequences. On August 9, officers from the Sariarka District Police Department raided raided the Music Bar 33, a gay bar, and the Central Station Astana Party Club in Astana. 15 people were illegally detained. The officers did not identify themselves, confiscated phones, searched intimate photos and messages, and assaulted people based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. One of the police officers told the administrator, "We'll close the club anyway soon and ban all LGBT people." One of the detainees was the victim of extortion. A police officer threatened to send him to a temporary detention facility, reveal his sexual orientation, deport him from the country if he paid approximately 900 euros. He handed over 550 euros that he had. A criminal case was opened against the officer only for abuse of power. Extortion was not mentioned. The club itself is under constant pressure to shut down, fines, inspections, etc. This is not the first case. Last year, after similar statements by MPs, the last 3 police raids were accompanied by attacks and humiliation of human dignity. I also will talk about the freedom of association. It's impossible to register an LGBTQI organization in Kazakhstan. Our organization received 6 refusals from the Astana department. First, they said that our goals are not beneficial for the public, and later they came up with different reasons. Like, for example, many people are being harassed. For example, in case of mandatory operations, people are not allowed to change documents, and their right to self-determination of gender is not met. And we call on OSCE participating states to take into account systemic human rights violations when cooperating with Kazakhstan, and demand concrete steps to end anti-LGBTQI legislation and discrimination against LGBTQI people. It's impossible to be a strong and secure state if some of its citizens live in constant fear. Thank you very much.
Next is Human Rights Consulting Group Public Foundation, followed by NAFA's LGBTI Azerbaijan Alliance. But first, Human Rights Consulting Group Public Foundation, the floor is yours.
Спасибо. Уважаемые делегации стран.
Thank you, dear delegates and participants of today's panel session. I'm Sinal Bakirov. I'm the director of the Human Rights Consulting Group. In Kazakhstan, since previous year, there has been identified the initiatives on the prohibition on the LGBT formation and activities. These steps are usually presented as the preventive measures for shaping children's opinion during upbringing. But we treat it as a direct and clear discrimination of human rights. On the 13th of June, the members of the announced the development of bill banning TV propaganda and proposed introducing criminal liability. This bill is planned to be submitted to Parliament this fall. The rhetoric is already having direct consequences. On August the 9th, officers from the Sterka District Police Department rendered the assistance and participated in the discussion with regard of the cooperation with the governmental institutions, saying that this information is not accurate and reliable. But still, there is a quite, I would say, extended infrastructure of outlets that deal with filtering and paying paying attention to more biased reporting, and I think that it poses high risk to the community and to the civil society. With regard of the anti-discrimination law, the sexual orientation issues are deliberately excluded, and people who would like to raise their voice in this matter are not allowed to speak. So these strategies do not lead to strengthening the democratic principles, and it totally contradicts the democratic principles that have been laid in the provisions of the international community. We would like to remind that the people's rights are the fundamental, and they should be observed.
Thank you. Next is Nafas LGBTI Azerbaijan Alliance, followed by Karalpak Diaspora in the USA. Nafas LGBTI Azerbaijan Alliance, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Javid Nabiev, and I'm addressing this session on behalf of Nafas LGBT Azerbaijan Alliance. Dear friends, colleagues, and distinguished delegates, no one in this room would disagree that tolerance and non-discrimination lie at the heart of our shared commitments. Realizing them for everyone is what gives meaning to the OSCE's vision of sustainable security and peace. Yet this vision cannot be achieved if the most vulnerable in our societies continue to be left behind. Across the OSCE region, LGBTI+ communities continue to face barriers in employment, healthcare, education, and other spheres of public and private life. The Action Plan for the Promotion of Gender Equality provides an essential framework to end this injustice and to ensure that every person can live free from discrimination and violence. But for the plan to succeed and to achieve the full potential of this valuable instrument, implementation must include and support those working on the ground, making equality real. Unfortunately, across many participating states, these actors, we, face an increasingly shrinking civic space. Our struggles are politicized, instrumentalized, and misrepresented, turning genuine efforts through peaceful means into targets of hostility, harassment, and even persecution. Restrictions on freedom of association and expression, stigmatization, and administrative or legal harassment create a climate of fear. For many defenders, even taking part in international spaces such as this one carries personal risks of retaliation upon returning home. The OSCE has long recognized and repeatedly emphasized that human rights defenders play a key role in achieving peace and security. Ensuring their protection must therefore be a shared priority. Participating states should create an enabling environment where civil society can operate freely, safely, and without fear. Equality, tolerance, and non-discrimination must not remain promises on paper. If you are serious about these shared commitments, then you must also be serious about protecting those who defend them on the ground, who often do so at great personal risk and cost. While many in this room are able to speak and work in safety, a privilege not everyone enjoys. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next is Karalpak Diaspora in the USA, followed by the Center for the Analysis of Democratic Process. Karalpak Diaspora in the USA, please, you have the floor.
Greetings, everyone. I am wearing this burqa not because of religious conviction, but because of the fear of the brutal harassment by the government of Uzbekistan. Historically, Karakalpak women never covered their face. They were freedom-loving women. When a woman raises her voice against injustice, she doesn't only speak for herself, she speaks for truth. But in Karakalpakstan, too many women have paid a heavy price for that courage. Karakalpak women who have dared to speak out against discrimination, violence, and human rights violations have faced beatings, rape, and imprisonment by Uzbekistan government. Instead of protection, they have been met with humiliation and abuse meant to break their spirit and silence their truth. Across the Republic of Karakalpakstan, women live at the intersection of gender and ethnic discrimination. They are too often denied their rights for safety, dignity, and self-determination. Reports indicate that women have been deprived of both of control of their own reproductive health, a violation of both human rights and human dignity. Others face the constant threat of exposure, public shame, and retaliation simply for demanding the fairness. Let me be clear, no government has the right to control a woman's body or silence her voice. No authority may claim legitimacy while violating the humanity. Uzbekistan has pledged before the international community to uphold equality, justice, and women's rights. Yet promises meant little when women continue to live in fear. Justice must not be selective. Rights must not depend on ethnicity or obedience. Karakalpak women are not victims to be pitied. They are survivors, teachers, mothers, community leaders, defenders of culture and consciousness. Their resilience is stronger than repression, but resilience should not be the only defense. We call on Uzbekistan government to meet its obligation to protect every woman from violence, to investigate and hold accountable those responsible for abuse and intimidation, to restore trust by ensuring that Karakalpak women can live, speak, and decide freely about their lives, their bodies, and their future. Because gender violence anywhere is a crime against humanity everywhere. Because no woman should have to choose between silence and survival. Because the freedom of Karakalpak woman is measure of justice in Uzbekistan itself. We call on international community to stand with Karakalpak women in solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the Center for the...
Спасибо. Следующее слово приглашаем Центр анализа демократических процессов.
Kazakhstan. But the floor goes first to the Center of the Analysis of
Здравствуйте,
Democratic Process.
участники.
Dear participants, dear delegates, my name is Hal Haron. From the very beginning of the conference, I regularly listen to claims against Russia for its actions in Ukraine, and I condemn it as well. But I think that it was a group of separatists who openly supports actions of Russia. I think that they have been consulted by Russians who usually provided some instructions for them. When I tried to put a question, one of them, the person who has recently taken the floor, started to create a scandal. I think that having the right to go with your face covered, it's a kind of not accepted behavior in Poland, probably. So while taking the floor yesterday, I had to switch off the microphone while giving my report. So I think that I didn't do anything illegal that would make people use any kind of physical enforcement against me. When I demonstrated that my telephone is recording the video, they tried to handle this issue with me. So my question goes to the obviously. So you constantly speak about the international law and the rights of women. So aren't you supposed yourself follow and observe these rules? If, for example, if everyone Russia is considered to be the enemy, so why does the committee invite representatives who support Russian aggression? So I call on the participants and the organizing committee of the conference to take measures.
Of this session, thank you.
Не понял. Все, я закончил свой доклад.
Actually, my presentation is over, so I have finished.
Is Democratic Party of Alga, Kazakhstan, followed by For Equal Rights Education Center non-governmental organization. But first, I give the floor to the Democratic Party of Alga, Kazakhstan.
Good morning. My name is Gazirengis. I'm from Kazakhstan. I am a member of an initiative group, an unregistered political party, Alga, Kazakhstan. Today we speak of violence against women and girls. I would like to address your attention to the violence being exercised by Nazarbayev regime against the women of Kazakhstan. Initiative groups, activists, and the members of Alga Kazakhstan are subjected to such incidents. We are witnessing systematic violation of the rights of Shambayeva, Venera, and many other women. They have been detained on many occasions by the police. The police was using force against them. They were being arrested illegally for 15 to 20 days. Sometimes administrative fines being applied against them that are based on conjured up grounds. The police is sometimes detaining them for a period from 5 to 7 hours in detention cells, although the maximum time of such detention in this type of cell is only 3 hours. We need to remember that Elvira Bezan and Ulrike Topayeva have been sentenced for 2 years of restriction of her freedom for allegedly attacking a law enforcement officer. In fact, she was in the building of the Constitutional Court together with her little baby. They are claiming that she attacked the law enforcement officer, but in fact, at that time, she was holding her own baby in her arms. That is recorded on CCTV cameras. The Liberty Radio was saying that that was clear evidence of her being not guilty. Nonetheless, the court decided that she was guilty, and that was all because she was there to protect a political activist who was trialed on that day. Also, recently, some of the law enforcement agents made an attempt to exert pressure on Turkbayeva. She was offered to study abroad, just to leave the country in order to silence her. Currently, she studies at the PhD course. She reads architecture at a number of universities. However, the special services offered her a possibility to leave the country and study abroad. Once she refused, the special services took some more extreme measures against her. She was fired from some of her positions, but she's still there. She's still fighting for her husband, and she's fighting for her own rights and the rights of her associates. Irina Persadina, she is a member of the organizational committee of the unregistered Alga Kazakhstan party. Not only her constitutional rights are being violated, also the rights of her daughters are being violated.
Statement. Next on my list is For Equal Rights Educational Center, non-governmental organization. And here I would like to note that an organization can only speak once, which is why you'll be speaking under this slot. So I give the floor to For Equal Rights Education Center, non-governmental organization, followed by Romania, please. Is there anyone representing for Equal Rights Educational Center non-governmental organization? I don't see anyone, so we move to Romania, followed by CF Slavic Heart. Romania, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, Romania remains firmly committed to advancing gender equality and ensuring equal opportunities for all. In recent years, we've made significant legislative progress in promoting gender equality and combating domestic violence. Our national policies are firmly anchored in the relevant international instruments, including the OSCE Action Plan for Promotion of Gender Equality. These instruments guide our efforts to create a society where equality, safety, and respect are a lived reality for all. Our national strategy on promoting equal opportunities and preventing and combating domestic violence for the period of 2022-2027 strengthens this commitment, focusing on gender parity, closing the pay gap, eliminating discrimination, and eradicating all forms of violence and harassment. These priorities guided Romania during its presidency of the Council of the European Union and continue to shape our engagement in the Human Rights Council for the 2023-2025 term. Also, as a member of the UN Commission on the Status of Women and incoming Vice Chair of the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women next year in March, Romania remains dedicated to global progress on gender equality, promoting women's rights, leadership, and empowerment in line with the goals of the Beijing Declaration on Platform for Action. We recognize the progress achieved: stronger legal framework, better access to education, and greater participation of women in public life, while acknowledging that challenges persist. Addressing these challenges requires strong partnerships among governments, international organizations, civil society, and the private sector, based on solidarity and shared responsibility. At home, through the National Agency for Equal Opportunities between Women and Men, Romania continues to implement impactful projects and awareness campaigns. Education remains a cornerstone. By encouraging young women and girls to pursue their ambitions and claim their rightful place in society, we invest in a future built on fairness, respect, and equal opportunity for all. We are willing to continue to build on what has been already achieved and will be a reliable partner, including for sharing our experience in the field of gender equality, non-discrimination, and ruling out violence, abuse, and harassment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is...
Следующий, пожалуйста. Карабахстан, News Channel. Следующий. А сейчас... Slavic Heart.
Excellency, delegates, colleagues, and friends, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today on behalf of the unbreakable of women of Ukraine, who every day fight for life, dignity, and freedom. My name is Natalie Kirkach, and I am the chairwoman of the women's rights organization Slavic Heart from the Donetsk region, established in 2014 in Slovyansk, the first city where the war in Ukraine began, the first to feel the treachery of Russian aggression. Today, I also stand before you as the gender advisor to the head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration. I had prepared a different speech about Ukrainian women who returned home after 6 years in Russian captivity. But yesterday, listening carefully to the discussion in this hall, I realized that today I must speak different words, words that call for immediate action. This conference is dedicated to tolerance and non-discrimination, principles that form the foundation of democracy and peace. But let me speak honestly, as someone who has lived in a country at war for 12 years. These values survive only when we are ready to defend them through action, not words. We are fighting for the right of our children to grow up in a world where compassion still matters, where justice is not rhetoric, and where freedom is not a privilege, but a birthright. Russia does not understand what humanity means. It does not know compassion or respect for human rights. It understands only one thing: power. only power and strength. And we must have the courage to say it clearly. Tolerance must never mean tolerance toward aggression. There is no moral equivalence between the victim and the aggressor. You cannot negotiate with brutality. You cannot educate tyranny through dialogue. And if the free words fails to speak the language of strength, then everything we believe in will collapse under the weight of our silent weakness. Today is not the time for new statements, no for cautious formulations. Today is the time for decisive action, political, economic, and other. If we lost the defense of humanity in Ukraine, we will lose it everywhere. That is why I appeal to all of you here. The time to act is now, not tomorrow, not after another resolution, but today. Act through strong decision, real deeds, and another strong thing. Let's be brave together. Thank you. And finally, I would like to warmly invite all of you to our side event at 4 p.m. organized by our partner organization, Kvina Tel Kvina, and we speak about women through the war experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Karal Pakistan News Channel, followed by Ataz Hurt Party. But first, the floor goes to Karal Pakistan News Channel. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Galuk Muratov from the Karal Pakistan News Channel. The problem that Karal Pakistan women are facing is not a fake story. That's the real story. Every day, the women of Karal Pakistan face inequality and also persecution on their ethnicity. Their rights and their dignity are being undermined. We have evidence of forced sterilization of Karal Pakistani women. Activists are being persecuted. Those who speak openly are being persecuted. We see trauma caused to these people. Physically and mentally, these people are traumatized and they receive neither support nor see justice. We see the restriction of the freedom of space for Karal Pakistani women. When they speak openly, they are persecuted. Uzbekistan should take immediate measures to address this. We need to provide for transparency and accountability. We need to investigate the cases of violence against the Karal Pakistani women. Such investigations must be objective, non-biased, and effective and timely. The perpetrators, including the representatives of the authority, should be held accountable. We need to provide for women's rights. For that, we need not only the laws, but the enforcement of these laws. We need to provide for the activity of crisis center and help centers for women. We need to take into consideration cultural and linguistic features so that women may ask for help without fear. We need to protect Karal Pakistani women leaders, activists, and women-led organizations. They need to be protected from pressure. Their stories must be heard, both inside our country but also abroad. I thank you.
Thank you. Next is Atazhurt Party, followed by the Council of Europe. But first, Atazhurt Party, the floor is yours.
Партия Атажурт.
Dear delegates, today I would like to attract your attention to the critical situation in case of one of women journalists, and I would like to remind about other women prisoners in Kazakhstan persecuted for political reasons. Some famous journalists, for example, mothers of minor children, have been serving 4-year sentence She was sentenced after the January events of 2022. She was charged with organizing mass riots, although she did not participate in the violent actions. She was present covering the events as a journalist. Her state of health raises our concerns. According to her mother, she has some abscess and her health has been deteriorating, and she hasn't been provided adequate health care. Recently only, she was taken to a district hospital, and she was supposed to stay longer, according to the medical personnel. Nevertheless, she was denied the right to stay in the hospital and was taken back to the penal colony. So her life is under threat. The family and lawyers appeal to the international community, stating that this is not only a violation of humanitarian law, but other norms as well. There are some other examples. For example, one of the ladies, for her participation in peaceful protest, was sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment. Another public activist was sentenced for 6 years on terrorist charges. Another journalist was sentenced to 7 years for her publications. So other activists and human rights defenders, whose names I am telling right now, have been persecuted as well. Well, recently, for example, one of the activists was attacked by the police in the presence of her minor children. So those women, they were not participants of violent actions. Their cases are an example of systemic attempt to silence their voices. We appeal the OSCE states to intervene immediately, especially in case of those whose health is under threat, and for them to be released, taken to medical facilities, and classified as political prisoners. So the government should stop persecuting women. So we require immediate reaction of the international community.
The floor goes now to the Council of Europe, followed by Armenia. Please.
Distinguished participants of the conference, gender equality remains a key and cross-cutting policy goal of the Council of Europe. The gender equality strategy for the period 2024 to 2029 sets ambitious priorities and provides a clear framework for action. While the legal status of women in Europe has improved over recent decades, effective equality is still far from reality. Despite progress in education, labor market participation, and political representation, gender gaps persist, limiting women's opportunities to fully enjoy their rights and assert their agency. These inequalities are even more pronounced among women from vulnerable or marginalized groups. Violence against women remains the most severe expression of inequality. Nearly 1 in 3 women faces intimate partner violence, and 1 in 6 experiences sexual violence. The Council of Europe has achieved significant progress through the Istanbul Convention, our legally binding instrument to prevent and combat all forms of violence against women. It promotes coordinated approach through legal reforms, support services, and professional trainings, applying both in peace and in times of conflict. Yet accountability for conflict-related sexual violence often remains insufficient. ECRI's 2022 annual report and other emergencies highlighting the need to keep their protection at the heart of our work. The Council of Europe's Gender Equality Commission develops standards, policies, and guidance ensuring gender equality is integrated across all activities and promoting cooperation among member states, international partners, and civil society. Distinguished participants, gender equality is not a separate issue. It is a foundation for democracy, justice, and peace. Ensuring equal rights and opportunities for all women and men is essential to building truly inclusive and resilient societies. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next, the floor goes to our...
Благодарю. Слово предоставляется Армении, затем организация Think Out.
Thank you. Madam Moderator, advancing gender equality and promoting women's participation in all spheres of political and public life are essential preconditions for building inclusive, stable, and resilient societies. Women's active involvement in political, economic, and social life, including in peace and security processes, has been recognized as a factor that strengthens the effectiveness and sustainability of peace and security efforts. This approach is firmly grounded in international frameworks, most notably UN Security Council Resolution 1325. Adopted 25 years ago, it underscored the vital role of women in conflict prevention and resolution, peace negotiations, peace building, and post-conflict recovery, and called for the integration of gender perspectives at every stage of the conflict cycle. OSCE participating states have repeatedly reaffirmed their commitment to advancing gender equality, including through the 2004 OSCE Action Plan for the promotion of gender equality and subsequent Ministerial Council decisions. These commitments reflect the recognition that gender equality is inseparably linked to comprehensive security and is a key factor in promoting peace, stability, and cooperation in the OSCE area of responsibility. Armenia attaches great importance to promoting women's full and meaningful participation in all spheres of political and public life. This is reflected in legislative reforms and policy initiatives that promote social, political, and economic inclusion, as well as targeted actions to eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls. In today's digital era, we also place strong emphasis on preventing and addressing technology-facilitated gender-based violence, ensuring women's, girls' safety and participation both online and offline. Armenia has translated to its women, peace, and security commitments into 3 national action plans. The current plan places special focus on vulnerable and marginalized groups, particularly forcibly displaced women refugees. It provides targeted support such as psychological assistance, capacity building, and programs designed to create sustainable living conditions. Gender mainstreaming is among the priority aspects of security sector governance and reform in Armenia. Our reform agenda reflects tangible progress. For the first time in our history, Armenia has a female Minister of Internal Affairs and women heading the Foreign Intelligence Service. Women currently make up 30% of government ministers and 38% of members of parliament. Policy reforms aim for 30% women's participation in the patrol service. Armenia is also committed to increasing women's involvement in UN peacekeeping missions, aspiring to meet the UN threshold of 15%. In conclusion, Armenia is ready to share its best practices and cooperate with the OSCE participating states, partners, and civil society to strengthen the implementation of the Women, Peace, and Security Agenda. I thank you.
Thank you. Next is Think Out, followed by Norway. Think Out, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My name is Eda Öztürk, and on behalf of the Belgian non-governmental organization Think Out, I will speak today about the underrepresentation of Muslim women in our societies. Despite progress made in promoting gender equality, Muslim women remain underrepresented in key institutions, in politics and academia, not due to a lack of competence or ambition, but from persistent structural barriers that limit equal participation. Muslim women are frequently judged by their faith or origin. They experience psychological forms of violence during their education and on their workplaces. These forms of psychological violence often remain unreported and unaddressed. Yet their impact on mental health, career advancement, and social belonging is profound. Allow me to share a recent example from Belgium. A Turkish Muslim woman was appointed as the head of a department within a federal public service. During the farewell speech for the previous head, a male colleague publicly mocked the new leader with offensive remarks about her faith and background. He literally said, "We are losing the smartest and blondest unit head, but what are we getting instead? Someone who will swear loyalty to President Erdogan every day and process files facing Mecca." These words were meant as a joke, but they were deeply disrespectful and unacceptable. The man humiliated the new leader and reduced her professional achievement to stereotypes about her faith and origin. This example shows that discrimination against Muslim women is still a serious problem, even in public institutions that should embody justice and respect. To truly advance tolerance and non-discrimination, we must recognize that gender equality cannot be achieved without also addressing religious equality. Therefore, as Think Out, we call upon the participating states to introduce anti-discrimination policies in all public institutions and workplaces, ensuring that psychological violence is treated as seriously as physical violence. To promote intercultural and interfaith dialogue training for employers to create respectful workplace cultures, and finally to collect and analyze disaggregated data on gender and religion in employment and representation to guide evidence-based policymaking. By implementing these measures, we will protect the dignity of Muslim women and uphold the values at the heart of the OSCE, such as equality, inclusion, and respect for women and their rights. In closing, I believe that promoting gender equality must go hand in hand with promoting religious equality. Only by embracing both, we can build societies where every woman, regardless of her background or belief, can contribute fully to our collective future. Finally, I would like to add the Belgian delegation that they responded to my speech from yesterday. The responses to our allegations from countries like Belgium may show you that everything is very legal and loving, but it isn't. The only reason for these relaxed explanations is that we can't fully explain the situation in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Norway, followed by Serbia. Norway, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the topics we are discussing today are of key importance for the social development and progress.
Excuse me? The floor goes to Norway and then Serbia.
Norway?
Yes, Norway.
Okay,
please,
sorry.
Then Serbia. No worries at all. Norway, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. In addition to joining the EU statement made by Sweden, allow me to make a few following remarks by Norway. I have 3 points to make. First, respect for human rights is at the heart of my government's international commitment to women's rights and gender equality. Regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity, human rights apply to everyone, everywhere. This truth does not mean that implementation comes easily. In turbulent political times, it is even more important to ensure that people are not affected because of their gender. Sexual and gender-based violence in all its forms remain a challenge throughout the OSCE region, but is exacerbated by war and conflict. In the context of the Russian Federation's ongoing war of aggression against Ukraine, Norway is committed to supporting Ukrainian authorities and civil society in preventing and responding to cases of SGBV. Second, Norway continues to promote the value of women, peace and security agenda, reiterating that women are willing, able and entitled to full, equal and meaningful participation in all matters of peace and security. Strengthening the role of girls and women in society is not only the right thing to do, it is the key to more resilient, prosperous and just societies. It optimizes the utilization of resources in society and ensures fundamental freedoms for all. And then my third and final point. The OSCE has a strong mandate to promote gender equality in the region. And as we heard yesterday, there are several challenges related to upholding the rights of minority women. OSCE should continue to play a central role in keeping states accountable to their commitments and be a key implementing partner in the region. There can be no separation between the rights of women and girls and their inherent human rights. Norway will continue to be a steadfast advocate for human rights for everyone, everywhere. I thank you.
Thank you. And now, finally, it's Serbia's turn. Madam,
Finally,
please, you
Serbia.
have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the topics we are discussing today are of key importance for the social development and progress of every country, including the Republic of Serbia. Equality between women and men is not only a principle contained in the highest legal act, the Constitution of the Republic of Serbia, but it also the foundation of the just, stable, and prosperous society in our country. Moreover, the Constitution of the Republic of Serbia guarantees equal rights to all citizens and prohibits any form of discrimination based on gender. On these foundations, a number of anti-discrimination laws and bylaws, as well as public policy documents in the Republic of Serbia, have been enacted, with the Ministry for Human and Minority Rights and Social Dialogue being the responsible body for their development as the sector ministry in the field of gender equality. Especially important to highlight, the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia adopted this year the Act on the Exercise of Right from the Alimony Fund, which regulates the establishment, management and financing of the alimony fund, the rights of children to temporary maintenance from this fund, and other matters for importance for exercising the rights to temporary maintenance from the alimony fund. It is of particular importance for women and children who are victims of domestic violence and who receive state support in this way, not only through placement in safe houses and shelters for women and children victims of violence, free legal aid and similar measures. When it comes to strategic documents, it should be noted that the government of the Republic of Serbia adopted the gender equality strategy for the period 2021 to 2030, as well as the strategy for the prevention and combat of gender-based violence against women and domestic violence for period 2021 to 2025. Therefore, the Ministry of Human and Minority Rights and Social Dialogue continues to undertake activities to promote gender equality. In close cooperation with the OSCE mission to Serbia, it's currently working on the revision of the gender equality strategy and the development of the new action plan for 2026 and 2027. During 2026, training sessions are planned for political parties in order to encourage greater involvement of a woman in political life. In this process, it's our shared responsibility to create conditions in which both women and men can live, work, and realize their potential in equality, dignity, and mutual respect, while taking into account the interests and needs of vulnerable groups through the development of tolerance, multiculturalism, and multi-ethnicity, and a society with zero tolerance for any form of violence. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next is Association of Women and Girls of Uzbekistan, followed by Azerbaijan. But first, Association of Women and Girls of Uzbekistan. The floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Здравствуйте, уважаемые.
Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen. That's my first time to participate in OSCE conference. I would like to thank you for the invitation. For over 30 years, I worked in NGOs aimed mostly at supporting women and girls. I established some Republican organizations that work on the territory of the whole country, our Association of Women and Girls. So we organize events and informational campaigns aimed at promoting laws aimed at gender equality. Since 2007, several times they prohibited us to use the words gender and women leaders. But the situation changed after the decree of the president of 2018 on supporting NGOs. So 2 laws are really important. The one was adopted in 2019 on the guarantees of equal rights of women and men, and the second on the protection of women from domestic violence. So this is the framework within which we work. Also, we have like preventive programs together with different ministers. For the first time, a protective order was issued. Like, for example, if 2 or more cases of violence had place during the year, such order, protective order, can be issued. Actually, 5,000 families were issued such order in one of the years. For example, in 2018, I was in charge of the Republican Rehabilitation Center, and during the year we opened about 200 crisis centers all over the country. After a year and a half, we opened 29 rehabilitation centers, because by that time there was not so much violence as before. Now we have 29 rehabilitation centers funded by the state, where women victims can get all types of aid and assistance. Since 2022, we have a Republican committee headed by the Speaker of the Senate on promoting the role of women and gender equality and family issues. The committee prepares drafts of the laws on women and children status. In 2023, we amended 5 codes and 10 laws in the country. After the law on gender equality was adopted, a relevant committee in the Senate was established and 21 regional committees. So we have a strategy on gender equality up to 2030, which includes 61 indicators. We have a law adopted in 2020. Yes, I'm concluding. According to the World Bank, actually, Uzbekistan was in 5 countries with positive changes in the Gender Equality Index.
Next on my list is Azerbaijan, followed by Public Fund Nomad Rights. Azerbaijan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. The Republic of Azerbaijan pursues a consistent policy to combat all forms of discrimination through a strong legal framework, effective national institutions, and the promotion of multiculturalism and tolerance. Concerning the gender equality, the National Action Plan on Combating Domestic Violence for 2020-2023 has been successfully implemented. It enhanced the effectiveness of national measures and ensured that families receive timely and comprehensive assistance. Building on this progress, a second National Action Plan is currently being prepared. A key focus has been the strengthening of the legal and institutional framework. Amendments were introduced to 6 laws and 5 decrees covering 7 main directions. Notably, the law now extends to close relatives of spouses. Victims of domestic violence are entitled to free legal assistance provided at state expense, and the duration of protection orders has been extended short-term from 30 to 60 days and long-term from 60 to 180 days. To ensure effective coordination, a new interagency liaison mechanism was established, monitoring and coordination groups composed of representatives of relevant state bodies have been created to enhance cooperation, raise public awareness, and safeguard the rights and safety of victims and minors. Further progress has been achieved through amendments to the Family, Criminal and Administrative Offences Codes, which abolished exceptions to minimum marriage age and introduced liability for the organization or facilitation of early marriages. Our efforts to further refine the legislative framework remain ongoing. In 2025, Azerbaijan adopted new amendments to the law on the prevention of domestic violence, further strengthening protection and accountability mechanisms. Looking ahead, the draft National Action Plan on Gender Equality for 2026-2028, prepared by the State Committee for Family, Women and Children's Issues, has been submitted to the Cabinet of Ministers for consideration. Finally, it is regrettable that instead of engaging in genuine dialogue, certain NGOs from Armenia and elsewhere continue targeting Azerbaijan at this platform, and we reject categorically all those allegations. So-called NGOs, Armenian NGOs, are spreading falsehoods and disinformation. They haven't made any constructive contribution to discussions at this conference. It would be far more productive if they directed their efforts toward promoting peace between two countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Public Fund Nomad Rights, followed by Western Trace Minority University Graduates Association. But first, Public Fund Nomad Rights, you have the floor.
Dear colleagues, my name is Reko Zhakov. I represent the Nomad Rights Organization from Kazakhstan. I'm going to talk about systemic discrimination against women with disabilities and mothers with disabilities. According to our analytical monitoring, we see that the housing status, disability and gender have an impact on the status of women. Many times the cases of violation of human rights are not being heard at courts, and many times women with disabilities and mothers with disabilities do not have legal remedies. For instance, in the housing sector, they are not allowed to rent housing due to their disability. Sometimes the state aid programs are not taking into consideration the needs of women with disabilities and mothers with disabilities. We need to provide stable and secure housing to these women, but such access is limited. There is a state program on that matter. However, there are the political priorities are not reflected in real aid. There is a huge gap between the goals that are being declared and the real situation. We have analyzed the current program, and although formally speaking there are measures to provide such women with social aid, still these women are facing long periods of waiting. The system is not flexible and is not taking into consideration the specific needs of women with disabilities. We have developed a roadmap and a set of recommendations to address the barriers faced by women with disabilities and mothers with disabilities. We recommend to improve legislation, to simplify procedural matters, and to make housing programs more accessible. We recommend the government of Kazakhstan to adopt our roadmap, also to follow the recommendations of OSCE and to pass comprehensive anti-discrimination legislation that would prevent form of discrimination against women with disabilities. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you. Next is Western Trace Minority University Graduates Association, followed by Italy. But first, Western Trace Minority University Graduates Association. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I am Kerem Abdurrahimoğlu, and I am representing the Turkish minority in Western Trace, Greece, as a member of Western Trace Minority University Graduates Association. Distinguished participants, ensuring the full participation of women in social, economic and political life has been a challenging struggle that has continued for more than a century. Women continue to face in unequal treatment in economic life. In social and political arenas, women who gain visibility are often subjected to gender-based defamation. Many European countries and societies face serious challenges in embracing gender equality and achieving democratic maturity in the political sphere based on this understanding of equality. For instance, a woman's participation in economic life in Greece is still far from the desired level. The women of the Turkish minority in Western Thrace are even more affected by inequality. Academic studies reveal that the participation rates of minority women and men in EU funding opportunities remain significantly low. On the other hand, women's representation in Greece's political sphere and parliament is unfortunately far behind the modern European standards. However, it can be said that the Turkish minority in Western Thrace possesses a different democratic understanding and maturity compared to the rest of Greece. Indeed, today, one of the only two political parties in Greece headed by a woman is affiliated with the Turkish minority. Turkish minority women continue to play a leading role in human rights struggles and civil society activism in Western Thrace. Unfortunately, democratic understanding achieved by the Turkish minority is met with constant targeting and attempts to discredit our leading women. For example, following the 2024 European Parliament elections and her participation last month in a conference organized by the European Parliament, the DEP party president was subjected on social media to sexist insults and humiliation with references to her physical appearance and ethnic identity. Leading minority women and politicians and human rights activists are also continuously subjected to such attacks. The marginalizing and exclusionary policies directed against the Turkish minority in Greece are the principal reason why minority women are subjected to gender-based attacks and efforts to undermine their credibility. Therefore, as the Turkish minority, we call on to Greece to protect Turkish minority women who play a leading role in the struggle for gender equality and democratization of the country, and to initiate a democratic dialogue by recognizing the Turkish identity of the minority. I thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Italy, followed by Human Rights Commissioner in the Republic of Kazakhstan. Italy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, Your Excellencies, dear colleagues. My name is Pietro Barbuti. I represent the OSCE Office of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Italy. Italy aligns with the statement delivered by the European Union and would like to add some remarks in its national capacity. Italian authorities and our public opinion pay a special attention to the prevention and the fight against gender-based violence and related discrimination. As long as women continue to face violence, true empowerment will remain out of reach. Violence against women and girls is not only a serious human rights violation, but it's also one of the biggest obstacles to equality. Sadly, Italy is not immune to this scourge either, but we are taking decisive actions. Our legislation, reinforced through the ratification of the Istanbul Convention, is strong and comprehensive. Our anti-violence networks are fully operational and government-supported, and the 1522 helpline offers immediate assistance to victims. Moreover, in March 2025, the Italian government also approved a landmark bill introducing femicide as a distinct and autonomous offense in the Italian Criminal Code. Madam Chair, to promote equality and increase the role of women in the field of peace and security, Italy has recently adopted its 5th National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security in accordance with the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325. It has 4 key objectives. First, to strengthen women's participation in peace processes and decision-making processes, ensuring that their voices are not only heard but also have real influence. Second, to promote the gender perspective in peace operations and to increase the presence of women in the armed forces and the police, including in leadership roles. Third, to protect and empower women and girls in conflict and post-conflict zones, working with civil society to ensure respect for and protection of their rights. 4, to consolidate communication training and awareness raising on women's rights, while deepening collaboration with international partners, including the EU, OSCE, NATO, as well as universities and NGOs. This National Action Plan reflects Italy's deep commitment to promoting the rights and the role of women and girls, who should not be considered only as victims of conflict, but as key actors in building peace and security. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Human Rights Commissioner in the Republic of Kazakhstan, followed by Noila Center for Social Support, Legal Promotion and Monitoring in Uzbekistan. But first, Human Rights Commissioner in the Republic of Kazakhstan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. In 1998, Kazakhstan joined the CEDAW Convention. The same year, National Commission on Women's Affairs was established under the President. To advance gender equality in political life, a 30% quota for women was introduced in party lists and in the distribution of parliamentary seats. Women are equally represented in the civil service. They now account for almost 56% of public employees, including 39% in leadership positions. A similar trend can be observed in rural areas. By early 2025, women were leading almost 30% of all forms of nationwide. The list of professions banned for women, which included more than 200 positions, has been abolished, expanding opportunities for women's self-realization and career development. Across all regions of the country, non-staff advisors on gender equality have been appointed under regional governors, strengthening the institutional framework for promoting women's rights at the local level. Kazakhstan is firmly committed to the principle of zero tolerance for domestic and gender-based violence. Battery and minor bodily harm have been criminalized, and reconciliation is no longer permitted in cases of repeated offenses. For crimes such as the murder of a minor or acts of pedophilia, the law now provides only life imprisonment. We have also shifted from a complaint-based to a proactive and detection-based approach in handling domestic violence cases. They are now initiated even without a victim's complaint. In 2025, amendments were adopted introducing criminal liability for forced marriage, further expanding protection for women. Alongside legislative reforms, comprehensive practical and preventive measures are being implemented. A unified digital family map covering 6.3 million families enables early identification of risks and targeted support to those in need. Across the country, 70 crisis centers and 131 family support centers provide emergency shelter, legal, psychological, and social assistance to victims of violence. This year, nearly 3 billion tenge has been allocated to support these services and victims. A specialized police unit on domestic violence composed of 80% female officers has been established to ensure a more sensitive and effective response. The criminalization of minor bodily harm and battery has already delivered visible results. The number of domestic murders has been decreased by 32%, and cases of serious bodily harm by 17%. Justice has been ensured in every case of domestic violence. I would like to take this opportunity to announce that today at 2:30 p.m. in plenary meeting room, we will be holding a side event on Kazakhstan progress and experience in combating domestic violence. I sincerely invite all of those who are interested to join us and take part in this discussion. Couple words concerning the ban on LGBT propaganda. We have no legal prohibitions based on sexual orientation or gender equality. Members of the LGBTI community enjoy all fundamental rights and freedoms enshrined in the Universal Declaration. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next is Noila Center for Social Support, Legal Promotion and Monitoring in Uzbekistan, followed by Coming Out.
Thank you so much.
The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. I have substituted my colleague. I represent Barqaror Hayat NGO from Uzbekistan. Dear ladies and gentlemen, for Uzbekistan, ensuring equal opportunities for men and women is a key focus of democratic reforms and sustainable development. Under the leadership of President Shavkat Mirziyoyev, the country has implemented a consistent policy to strengthen the role of women in all spheres of public and political life. In recent years, important legislative and institutional measures have been adopted to protect women's rights. In particular, the law on guarantees of equal rights and opportunities for women and men, and the law on the protection of women from harassment and violence have been approved. Special parliamentary commissions have been established, as well as the Committee on Family and Women's Affairs under the government. Particular attention is paid to increasing women's participation in government. Today, the proportion of women in the legislative chamber of the Oli Majlis exceeds 30%, it is one of the highest rates in the region. Women occupy leadership positions in ministries, the diplomatic service, academia, and business. Uzbekistan actively cooperates with the OSCE, the UN, and other international partners in combating violence and discrimination, as well as promoting women's leadership. Our goals are clear: to create an atmosphere of equal opportunity, respect, and trust in society, where every woman can realize her potential. At the same time, I wanted to speak out on another issue. As a son of the Karakalpak people, it is very painful and difficult for me to hear what Mr. Koshkarbay Turemuratov is saying here. Despite this, I decided to speak out and explain what is really happening in my homeland, dear participants. First of all, I must note that the events in Karakalpakstan in July 2022 are a great tragedy both for the residents of the region and for all of Uzbekistan. We all know that they were the result of the lies and provocations perpetuated by several ringleaders of those unrest. But what kind of repression can we talk about when many of the 516 people detained by law enforcement were immediately released? Only 22 people were prosecuted, some of whom were sentenced to non-custodial sentences. Therefore, Mr. Turemuratов's claims of hundreds killed and thousands arrested are blatant lies and slander. And regarding the general situation in Karakalpakstan, dear participants, in recent years, Nukus, Muynak, the Aral Sea coast, and other regions of the Republic have become some of the most important tourist destinations, not only in Uzbekistan, but also in Central Asia. Exhibitions, festivals, and large-scale public events are held here, attracting millions of tourists. Is this really possible in a region with an unstable socio-political situation where discrimination and genocide reign? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, and I would like to remind everyone that you may only take the floor on behalf of the organization under which you have registered to attend the conference. Next is coming out, and after coming out, we will move to a reserve list. And first on the reserve list is the first department. But coming out, you have the floor.
I speak on behalf of Russian LGBT organization Coming Out. As UN Special Rapporteur on Russia warned in her recent report, state-sponsored ideology normalizes identity-based violence to justify repression and distract from war. We would say to legitimize the war. Dear colleagues, LGBT persecution in Russia is not a collection of isolated abuses. It's a nationwide system created to construct an internal enemy and to criminalize a social group as such. Since late 2022 and accelerating through recent years, LGBT people in Russia are being targeted slowly for who they are. Persecution is now woven into workplaces, schools, homes, hospitals, and into the digital sphere. How this system works? Administrative and censorship laws punish almost any visible expression of identity or solidarity, a not photo, a podcast, a private event, even a birthday kiss. These rules are applied retroactively and expensively. At the same time, the extremism track, after the Supreme Court declared the so-called international LGBT movement extremist, turns mere existence into crime. Prosecutors equate community life with crime of extremism, running a club, moderating a chat, publishing a book, or simply saying online that people should have equal rights. Parallel criminal cases are moving across multiple regions. Performers, publishers, and ordinary citizens are criminally persecuted not for conduct, but for sexual orientation or transgender identity. Police raids on clubs and gatherings are now routine, ending in humiliation, violence, severe beating, coerced military enlistment, or blacklisting. Those accused are placed on the register of extremists and terrorists, losing access to banking, work, property, and freedom of movement. Families are threatened with child protection charges for ordinary parenting. All these practices affect everyday life of millions of Russian LGBT people. Under Article 7 of the Rome Statute, persecution is the international and severe deprivation of fundamental rights on identity grounds conducted widely and systematically. The Russian anti-LGBT campaign meets every element of that definition, linked with imprisonment, deprivation of liberty, and other inhuman acts. And this persecution is not collateral to the war. It's moral engine and core anti-Western and therefore anti-Ukrainian narrative. What must be done now? honor the principle of non-refoulement explicitly for LGBT Russians, as UN Special Rapporteur calls on, no return to danger. Recognize this anti-LGBT campaign as a crime against humanity and under Article 7, according to the Rome Statute, and open investigations where domestic or universal jurisdiction allows. Hold to account not only commanders and prosecutors, but also media figures and digital actors whose coordinated hate propaganda and doxing directly enable prosecution. Impose targeted sanctions, visa bans, and asset freezes on those credibly implicated. Demand accountability from transnational social media corporations. Their platforms host, amplify, and algorithmically promote hate campaigns, doxing, and calls to violence that fit real-world prosecution. And finally, create rapid and predictable mobility pathways for at-risk persons and defenders. Multi-entry humanitarian visas, remote filing, NGO referrals. Speed saves lives. Open the doors so that people can live and continue their work. It's work not only for LGBT rights in Russia. This is a work for a possibility of peace in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. So first on the reserve list is the first department, followed by NGO Digital Generation Uzbekistan. The first department.
I will speak in Russian.
Dear colleagues, my name is Max Olevich. I'm from the First Department Organization. Russia has unleashed a military aggression against Ukraine for 4 years now. This is a challenge to gender equality around the OSCE area. And against this backdrop, the Russian authorities since 2022 have escalated their repressions in Russia against the LGBTQI community. LGBTQI community and women are being targeted by the Russian authorities. The Russian authorities are mobilizing society for war. But we see also augmented repressions against LGBTQI. Since 2024, any mention of any positive mention of LGBTQI is punishable, and administrative fines of 4,500 euros being paid for such positive statements. Also, such people are having problems with receiving medical aid. They are not allowed to marry and to adopt children. According to the statistics, we have approximately 1 million transgender people in Russia, but legally speaking, they're non-existent. And in fact, for the first time ever, an LGBTQI NGO in Russia has been deemed to be an extremist organization. 20 people are currently facing trial. They're facing 12 years of imprisonment. Among the defendants is Pavel Dmitry Protokopov and Artyomin Lukin. Hundreds others had to pay fines and were sent to the pre-trial detention for a period of 15 days. As for the prosecution of women's rights, women are not allowed to talk about abortion procedures. Even such mentions of abortion may lead to a fine. It is not permissible that millions of people are being silenced on those matters. Many times, Russia says that they are speaking about the protection of traditional values, but in fact, this is how they are banning some of the movements. These laws are now seeping into adjacent countries. In Kazakhstan, now they're discussing a possibility of adopting similar laws, but such laws have nothing to do with tradition or traditional values. This is just a form of violence. This transgender phobia is being instrumentalized, but in fact it is being used to fight democracy and human rights. Such repressions must be stopped. LGBTI community need real protection, not declarative. That will be the best demonstration of real care of these women. We need to fight anti-gender movements. Therefore, we recommend not to allow to pass a similar law in Kazakhstan, and we call on Kazakhstan not to pass this bill. Also, we are against passing such laws in other countries in the OSCE region. We also need to support LGBTI community organizations in Russia. On the diplomatic level, we call on the Russian authorities to release the people who have been detained.
Соглашения с такими авторитарными государствами.
And also we need to pay closer attention to the new developments in Turkmenistan. We call those countries who have not yet ratified the Istanbul Convention to do so and ratify the Istanbul Convention. I thank you.
Next is NGO Digital Generation Uzbekistan, followed by NGO Tashabbus Khorezm. So please, first NGO Digital Generation Uzbekistan.
Добрый день.
Good morning, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen. I am the head of the NGO. Today, I would like to tell you how in Uzbekistan the rights of people with disabilities are protected and how they can be active in the life of the society. I would like to thank the organizers for an opportunity to exchange experiences and share our best practices. In Uzbekistan, we have about 1 million of people with disabilities. So authorities actively involve those people in public life, provide them with work opportunities, help them in everyday life, as well as protect their rights. So not only state agencies, but also NGOs assist people with disabilities. For example, in getting educated, in finding work, in getting social rehabilitation, getting accommodation, spending free time. NGOs offer their solutions to the state and cooperate with different ministries and agencies. I would like to stress that people with disabilities have always been in the center of the state's attention. As part of the policy on human welfare, the state support system provides not only medical but also social support. During the last 7 years, we established a legal framework for the functioning of the social model. In 2020, the law on the rights of people with disabilities was adopted. In 2025, we ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. We also have the principle of social welfare state as stipulated in the Constitution. We have a plan for several years. We have a strategy for the development of New Uzbekistan, which aims at establishing effective support system for people with disabilities to improve their quality of life and introduce social welfare model in dealing with disability. Currently, in Uzbekistan, we have about 80 laws and bylaws regulating administrative, property, social, and other rights and interests of people with disabilities. So we have a complex work ensuring social welfare of people with disabilities in line with international standards. To summarize, I'd like to say that the state policy on supporting people with disabilities and provision of equal opportunities has come on a new level in our country. Thank you.
And I understand there was a mistake in the speaking order, that the NGO Tashabbus Khorezm spoke in the slot that was supposed to be for NGO Digital Generation Uzbekistan. So I will give the floor now to NGO Digital Generation Uzbekistan and apologize for the mix-up and thank you for your patience. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Distinguished participants of the conference, I am Mukhlisa Mamajanova representing the NGO Digital Generation Uzbekistan. During today's session, several statements have been made about women in Uzbekistan, about discrimination, their voices not being heard, and the lack of equal opportunities. As a young Uzbek woman living in Uzbekistan and the coordinator of the Digital Generation Girls Initiative, I would like to draw your attention to the real reforms and progress that are taking place in our country today as reflected in the work of our NGO. Our organization focuses on enabling more girls from rural areas, young people with disabilities, and those from disadvantaged communities to participate fully in education, innovation, and digital society. By promoting digital literacy and inclusive learning environments, we help ensure equal access to knowledge, skills, and opportunities for all. Over the past few years, we have educated more than 5,000 girls in programming, robotics, artificial intelligence, and digital design. We are now scaling to reach 50,000 participants through both online and offline formats. Let me share a powerful story. One of our hearing-impaired participants faced two paths in life: to accept her disability and remain at home, or not to give up and to pursue her education. She chose not to give up. Drawing on the skills and knowledge she gained through our project, she scored 100% on the creative entrance exam for the Architecture Institute. Technology became her voice, and her portfolio became living proof that disability doesn't define ability. This is not an isolated case. There are many other girls who have entered top international universities, continued their research, and received scholarships. Their stories from across Uzbekistan show how we are bringing new hope and opportunities to girls. We also conduct specialized sessions for hearing-impaired children and also students from boarding schools. Drawing our own experience working with these children and with the support of insights of international experts from institutions, we develop teaching materials specifically designed for inclusive education. Our ancestors had a wise saying that our organization often recalls: if you educate a boy, you educate one person. But if you educate a girl, you educate a family and entire society also. Our experience shows that with the right approach, every barrier can become a bridge. Through the collaboration of civil society, international partners, and local communities, we are building a movement where digital literacy is becoming a reality for all girls. As we all know, the future is digital, and in Uzbekistan, the future now includes everyone. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next on my list is Bulgarian Orthodox Church. Please, the floor is yours.
Здравствуйте.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, dear delegates and representatives of governments and CSOs. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ibadir Trasny. I am the voice of Bulgarian Orthodox Church. I'm the voice of the Bulgarian people. For thousands of years, we have been rooted in the European civilization and deep faith. The Bulgarian people has suffered centuries of persecutions, but still has been able to maintain its culture and spirit today. Today, Bulgaria is facing a new trial. Over the previous 35 years, 1 million Bulgarians have been forced to leave the country, but 1.5 million were buried. Entire generations are disappearing. The new elites have assumed power, and they, in fact, have created a system where merely 15% of the population are taking decisions without any consultations with the Bulgarian people. Many important matters are being determined without the referendum. Now they're thinking about the introduction of euro currency against the will of the Bulgarian people. I categorically claim 80% of the Bulgarian population speak against leaving this system. The Bulgarian authorities are deeply corrupt and represent narrow political interest. Instead of fighting for justice, the European money that is channeled into Bulgaria is many times being distributed amongst some narrow elites. Also, the sacred church land in the city of Sofia has been subjected to a number of court administrative procedures so as to take over this land. This is a spiritual crime against the Bulgarian people and our faith. What is most dangerous is an attempt of the political elite to get Bulgaria involved in the brotherly fratricide between the Russian and Ukrainian peoples. Bulgaria gave them literacy. We are steadfast in our faith. No one will ever turn Bulgaria into an instrument of their own political interests. We have the right to determine our fate on our own. We choose peace. We do not choose war. Today, thousands of ethnic Bulgarians live in today's Ukraine. Those are the descendants of those who for centuries have been maintaining spiritual links with Bulgaria. However, Zelensky is calling them to the front line. He tells them to die in the fratricidal war, which is not their choice, and it is not serving the purposes of the Bulgarian people. Bulgarian men are not allowed to leave Ukraine to join their families in Bulgaria. This is injustice. This is a form of discrimination.
To conclude, please.
Interpreter's remark, there is no sound. I do not hear the speaker. Interpreter's remark, interpretation not possible.
And the interpreters cannot hear you. Please conclude, sir.
Interpreter's remark, I confirm no sound.
Sir, I need to ask you to conclude, please. Sir, you are well above the speaking time, and it is not fair to the other speakers that you use so much time. I need to ask you to conclude, please. Sir, you really need to conclude your statement. Sir, I need you to conclude your statement and sit down, please. Sir, your time is up. So, colleagues, dear participants, I am sorry that our session would have to end this way, because this was, in fact, the last intervention from the floor that we had time for. But I think there were many other valuable interventions made. So I want to thank everyone for your active participation. I will now turn once again to our introductory speakers and invite them to share some brief concluding remarks or reflections on the discussion this morning. And I start with you, Ms. Syrian, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. And as we start to conclude today's plenary, I would like to thank for most of the interventions heard by the participating states and from representatives of civil society organizations. In most speeches that we heard, we shared some very valuable insights. Most importantly, the fact that gender equality is not only a matter of rights, it is a matter of peace, security, prosperity, stability, and resilience. Of course, we have both progress and we have challenges, and these challenges vary from a district and region and country to another. And also we have different kind of achievements, for example, in women's participation and protection. But at the same time, we can clearly see and hear the backlash against women's rights and gender equality in general. I would also like to note once again the rise of online and technology facilitated violence. This all means that we need to work more and we need to work together. Commitments must translate into concrete actions, and once again, implementation and accountability are key to success. There was a lot of activity from Central Asia, and I would like to inform you that I am planning a visit to Central Asia in a few weeks in my capacity as the special representative of the chairperson in office on gender. So I'm looking forward to continuing discussions regarding Central Asia. We must all continue to combat gender-based violence in all its forms, at home, in workplaces, in politics, and online. And this means supporting survivors, ensuring justice, and challenging harmful stereotypes. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of work ahead of us. I hope that we will all leave this plenary session with a renewed determination. It is needed as our work is not getting any easier. Dear participants, I would like to conclude with the following. When women and girls are safe, empowered, and equal, everyone benefits. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Simonovic, for your reflections, concluding remarks.
Thank you very much. I would like to fully support what was just stated by Special Representative of the OSCE chairperson in office, and her emphasis that we need to focus on implementation. We have seen from different statements some progress achieved in different countries related to national action plans, related to new laws, for example, law on femicide, criminalization of femicide in some states, new efforts related to violence against women, and we are seeing that progress is possible. But on the other hand, we are seeing that those norms that we have adopted, and Istanbul Convention was mentioned many times, and Istanbul Convention is also like CEDAW Convention and this General Recommendation 40 on equal and full representation of women, mentioning equal rights of women and men and realization of equal rights of women and men as prerequisite for elimination of violence against women. So we are seeing that we do have at international level strong instruments. Also OSCE Gender Action Plan was mentioned. We do have those frameworks. We have Beijing Platform for Action, but we do not see clear and forceful implementation. We do not see clear data from OSCE participating states. We are not seeing at the UN level clear data, because we should be able to see each year how we are progressing and what are key obstacles and how we are supporting those that are willing to go in direction of implementation. And I hope that OSCE with this new parity action plan will support all those that are willing to examine CEDAW General Recommendation number 40 that is calling now for parity. One delegation stated that, for example, temporary special measures should be 50-50. It is a learning process. Parity is not a temporary special measure. Parity is a permanent norm. So if we go to parity, it is going to be in laws as a permanent kind of representation of women and men in decision-making processes. So it is important to see how we are progressing and how we are measuring this progress and how we are supporting implementation. From my side now, working as NGO, I see that it is not easy to connect with governments, to connect with other non-governmental organizations, to have all those alliances with the international community, with all specific possibilities that we have there. But it is a learning process. We have many, many possibilities to progress, and I hope that we will continue this progress and that you, Madam Moderator, and Finland now, with your role within OSCE, will push in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Schilpe, please.
I didn't ask for the last word, but I have to confess I'm deeply impressed by the testimonies we heard today from across the OSCE region. They show both encouraging progress and a long way to go. I'm really moved by the harsh realities of violence, discrimination, and inequality against women and girls still persist. This makes clear. Gender equality is also about security. It strengthens inner security. It means dignity, trust, non-violence, and it strengthens outer security. It means peace, stability, and democracy. And I want to underline again, we need sustainable masculinities based on care, responsibility, and respect, and nonetheless, non-violence. Parity, peace, equality. This is solidarity with women, but it's also a vision for all genders, for girls and women, and also for boys and men. Only then we can achieve true gender equality and justice. We have to move boys and men to participate in gender equality, in solidarity, and their very own interests.
And with that, I want to thank all speakers, participants, meeting support, and interpreters for this exchange this morning. And I wish to inform you that during this session, the delegation of Greece submitted a right of reply, which will be accessible online. And participants are invited to attend the side events this afternoon, starting as of 2:30, and the schedule is published on the event webpage. This session is closed. Thank you very much.